Hey Graham,
Oh, hey, buddy.
how you doing?
Dang, you look good. Better than me.
I got a haircut special for you guys.
And you lost a bunch of weight.
I don't think I did. I think I only lost like
No?
10 pounds, probably all water weight those last couple days.
Back to normal?
I don't know. I haven't weighed myself in like 2 weeks.
Have you been on your bike?
No, I looked at it yesterday and then decided that I could wait another week before I ride.
You just, I can't imagine it being something you want to do quite yet, huh?
Not quite. It was good just to relax. Plus, I still can't feel my toes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to hear that.
Oh yeah. That happens.
So you can't feel your feet?
Well, I can. It's just like my well, both feet, like most of my toes are kind of like they feel kind of numb.
Yeah?
Just some nerve damage.
Just some nerve damage.
Yeah,
Does that
it'll
go
be
away?
fine. Yeah, it usually goes away.
You've had that before and you're shorter?
Yeah, the first time I did the hurricane, I had it both in my hands and my feet, but
Really?
I don't have any hand numbness this time.
Huh. Well, that's
But
good. How did you avoid it this time?
I well, I had aero bars, which
Oh.
helped a lot, and then I changed to like an ergon grip.
Mhm.
I don't know if that helped or not, but it was different.
Yeah, that extra hand position, man, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
Um, that's a must, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't have any ham numbness, so I mean, clearly works. I
Yeah.
mean, and I was a lot of people run drop bars, and maybe with drop bars you don't, but I don't know. I think it's a good idea just to have that extra hand position.
I'd like to there comes Tim. I'd like to watch Tim try to use arrow bars and open food at the same time.
It was funny because sometimes it was hard because I'd be riding down some bumpy ass gravel road trying to open or eat like cashews out of a little stupid plastic thing, and
Oh yeah, just dropping stuff.
oh yeah, cashews going all over the place.
Cashews are good, man. I That trip I did at Swanee River, I ended up like at some random store. That trip was really remote. It was awesome. Like there were not many stores, and so I ended up at like some gas station, sketchy gas station that I ended up buying some Vienna sausage in a can that looked really dusty and some
Nice.
cashews, and I had some rice with me, and
You
just
guys hear
took
me?
that with me. And
There
I
you are.
yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna try to connect to Bluetooth.
And
You guys,
so I was staying in a cabin, so I just took all that junk with me and just stirred it all up in a pot of rice and like sketchy Vienna sausage, cashews. I brought a thing of honey with me. I dumped honey in there.
hey
I
boys,
mean,
I'm here.
it. Hey, buddy, it was so good. I ate like 2 bags of. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I totally underestimated the amount of food you need to eat on this thing, on those types of things, and just doubled what I for my first trip because I bonked my first trip because I didn't eat enough overnight. So this time I just like brought all this stuff and I ate so much. Like by the
Yeah.
third night, I ate an entire box of waffles, like a
Yeah.
whole box of Eggo waffles.
Egos?
There were
Were
cinnamon
they,
toast crunch waffles. Just ate them all. Keith, I can't imagine like your food eating stories. It did you get kind of sick of food?
Oh yeah. You get totally sick of it. I mean, and but you got to keep eating. So you're
Yeah.
just it's like whatever sounds good. Like the last not the last store, but the so in New Mexico, get to like this weird little I think it was they called it a trading post because it was like a little convenience store, but then they had all kinds of weird like fake Native American crap that they were selling and t-shirts and I don't know.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. Um, but it's like I bought like two two ice cream bars, you know,
Yeah. just grabbing
a
stuff.
pickle, just like
pickle and ice cream bars.
oh yeah, it's just like whatever you can find, and then every once in a while you'd run into a place that had like real food.
Yeah.
And oh, that was so good.
Nothing better than real food.
Like the
Can't even
little
imagine.
Hachita is the last town you go through, and
Yeah.
there's like one little like convenience store there, and I mean it's like it's kind of sketchy, but apparently someone makes burritos and they sell them there. So had like these little like burritos, those were delicious. Some oatmeal cookies.
No raisins, right?
I think they had raisins, but I'm okay with raisins.
By then you'll just take whatever.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nothing ruins a good
Raisins.
cookie on a raisin.
Oh, they're the worst.
But you constantly eating so much sugar, like your taste buds are destroyed. At least that's what I found. Like, because I was just eating sugar all the time. It's like, so I got home and I mean, food still tasted good, but it didn't quite taste right. So I was convinced I had COVID for a while when I got home, because it's like my taste buds are screwed up. Is this what people mean when they can't taste anything?
You created your own version of COVID, dude. 3 weeks in the wilderness.
Yeah.
He's like a Chinese lab.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. All right, Tim, you situated? You're looking good. The hair looks good.
Yeah, are we videoing this or what?
I am. I'm recording it. Does that work pretty well?
Nice. That's a good picture.
I know.
Yeah.
Graham's sporting the Swift shirt. I like it.
Never forget. Yep, I got my moots in the background.
But
Let's
yeah,
get into
so
it.
Keith, this is about you though, man.
Yeah. Where did this start, brother? I mean, it's like the first thing I remember is Hurricane, right? I mean, is this where the idea came
Yeah.
from?
That's definitely where I want to know. Like, when did you think this was a good idea? And of course, talking about the Tour Divide.
So yeah, probably sometime around the Hurricane when I first did that and went, okay, that was more fun than I expected. But and so it's kind of always this like idea, that was out there, like this big adventure. I should do that sometime.
Was it the Netflix series or whatever, the Ride the Divide like documentary? Did that put you over? Did that help influence that you knew this happened? Like, how'd you hear about it?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where, I mean, a lot of people have heard about it. I think I had heard about it before. But I mean, we selling stuff at the shop and just trying to think of things to like differentiate ourselves from other shops in town. And doing the Hurricane, I think, kind of started that. And that's when I started looking at, what to do. And I should do that sometime. That looks really hard, but also kind of fun at the same time.
What year was the Hurricane?
I think it was 2000. No, it was like 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 14.
And you did really well there.
I won it.
I did pretty well. I mean, I think I did it in like 35 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
So the Hurricane's what, 300 miles around Central Florida? 350 miles through Central Florida. But the key is that Tour Divide is what, 3,000 miles?
Yeah, it's just under 3,000. It's like 2,700 something. I can't remember the exact mileage.
Is there much elevation difference between Hurricane in Central Florida and Tour Divide?
No. I mean, if you break it down, not really, none at all. No.
So I remember when you were telling me that you were going to do the Divide. It sounded like you, when you told me you weren't excited, it was very, you had a disappointing dad, like, Tim, I need you to sit down. I'm going to tell you something, and I don't want you to overreact. I'm going to do, and then you're like, and then you unloaded that you're going to do the Divide. I imagine similar conversation to others, including the other member of your team that had to drop you off and then pick you up 2,900 miles later. Your much better half, Teresa. Similar conversation, or did she know it was coming?
I mean, it's something I'd been talking about for, like a couple years, and then trying to figure out the time frame, because taking a month off of work is also another
Yeah.
kind of difficult conversation. So yeah, she knew it was coming, and trying to figure out, the logistics of it, because it's point to point, and it's not like point to point across the state of Florida. It's,
Right.
so
Yeah.
figuring out the best way to do that, and how to, because she really wanted to meet me at the end. But then when we were looking
I
at the logistics of doing that, that wasn't something that made sense. So we actually spent a week in Banff before I left on the ride, and we, were able to do some hiking, and just enjoying just time together, and relaxing for a week before I started. So that was really awesome.
So you did you fly to Banff, and then did you fly your bike out to Banff, like box it and ship it out there, or fly with it?
No, we drove. So
Oh, you drove.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like a 12 or 13 hour drive from Portland. So it
Okay.
wasn't terrible.
So you were
how'd
a
you
So
week
get
in
home?
Banff, acclimating, resting, eating,
yeah.
freaking out, packing, repacking your bike, right?
Yeah, I only did that twice,
Okay.
but it was super nice having Teresa there. She was able to keep me distracted and not completely freaking out. But of course, riding, I'm talking to a lot of different people, and everyone from people showing up like the day before, and to people that have flown over from Europe or Australia or New Zealand, and they showed up a week before and didn't do anything around Banff because they were kind of freaking out and checking their bike out and rechecking their bike. And so
Well, and you had done the VOG twice. Once didn't complete it, the second time you did, and that was your big dry run for the Divide, correct? And so you had a pretty good idea of setup.
yeah, so
The
I'd
VOG is
done
a
that, and then some, a few overnight training rides and some touring, a little bit, just to test out gear, what I wanted to bring, what kind of bag setup I wanted to use. And I did change things from when I did the VOG,
so
on my
what's your
bike and
setup?
the gear.
What explain your setup, bike, bags,
Computer
what
power.
yeah.
Sure. So the bike is I rode my Moots, YBB 29er, so it had the soft tail. I opted to go with a rigid fork, mostly because the majority of the Divide, from what the research I'd done, is gravel roads. So I thought, well, I want to go with something a little stiffer, and also a little bit lighter than running a suspension fork. There were definitely times I wish I had a suspension fork, but I all in all, I don't think I'd change that. So that was the bike. I
What about
did
bags?
So, well, I did set up wheels a little bit differently. So the VOG, I just carried batteries, because it's only, I think I did it in like 52 hours. So, you can get enough charge out of, a 10 milliamp or a 10,000 milliamp battery to recharge phone and computer and stuff like that. So I did get a new wheel set for the Divide, and opted for a dynamo hub so that I could recharge things and also run my lights off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So running the Sun dynamo, and then I used a K-Light lighting system. So I used their headlights and then their USB charging system.
Does lights run off the dynamo?
Yeah, lights ran off the dynamo. So I had light running all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then was able to recharge. I did bring a battery pack, but was able to recharge my Garmin, my InReach, my phone off of the dynamo.
Do you
What sleep stuff did you bring? Like
So I
you didn't bring a
opted to go
tent,
with
right?
it. What's that?
You bring a tent?
Yeah, I brought a tent, just a light 1-person tent, sleeping pad, and I used a quilt. Um, that worked well. Especially up north, it's still pretty wet. So I knew from using a bivy on some other rides that bivvies are kind of miserable to sleep in because they get so much condensation. So the tent was much better for that. I mean, I did get condensation, but it didn't get my sleeping bag wet, so I was able to stay a little bit warmer. And most of the time, the quilt was great. There were, I think, 2 nights that I had the quilt, I had down pants and down jacket on, because a couple nights it got pretty cold, but having that was good.
Heath, anything that you wish you didn't pack? You're like, oh man, I've been lugging this thing the entire time. And it's
No,
like,
I think almost pretty much everything I brought I used. I had some, like I had probably a couple extra pairs of socks that I probably didn't need, but I mean they don't take up much room or weigh that much. Um, yeah, I can't think of anything that I wouldn't bring again.
So you had a front bag, like a front roll, frame bag, and a rear bag, correct?
Yeah, so I use, let's see, I had like a seat bag. I think it was a Revelate tail, not tail fin.
The tortoise.
I can't remember the name of it now. So I used that, and it was a dry bag. I used a Revelate sweet roll, so on the handlebars, and then I had 2 fork mounted bags, small ones. They were also Revelate. They were nice. I was able to keep a handful of. That's why I kept some extra clothes, like arm warmers, knee warmers, extra socks, extra gloves, stuff like that. And then on the other side, I was able to keep like all my repair kit in one place. And it was pretty easy to get in and out of those. And then I had a half frame bag, not one that's set up under the top tube, but one that like it was kind of a half triangle. So I was able to use one water bottle cage along the seat tube, and then the other half, and that was pretty perfect. There was the only time I wish I had more space was leaving Grants, New Mexico, just because it's a long section where there's not a lot of options for resupply. So, bought about $100 worth of food at Walmart.
Wow.
and managed to pack all that into bags.
Did you have a bike lock?
Stuff my jersey pocket. What's that?
Did you have a bike lock when you went in from the Walmart?
Didn't bring a lock.
Okay. I need to know. So if I'm thinking of doing this, I'm not, but I know other people may. How much did you spend on this adventure? What's the budget?
I haven't totaled it up. It's
and don't do this like, oh, you can't put a price on freedom.
You can't, Tim.
Like,
no, I mean,
you're trying to put a price on freedom, Tim. Thanks for ruining it. You just see, we can't have nice things.
So food was easily $50 to $100 a day, easily.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, because you're burning so many calories. Like every time I'd go into a convenience store, I'd drop $50 on junk food.
You're probably looking around $4,000 after transportation, cost, hotels, and
yeah, and then
the
the other big one is like how often you stay in a hotel, and what level of hotel you want to stay at. I mean, there's places along the route where you could go pretty swanky and drop $400 a night easily.
Sure. What was the nicest hotel you stayed at? Speaking of which,
it was probably in Breckenridge.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't planning on staying there, but anyway, that was probably, but it wasn't the most expensive. The most expensive night That was probably, I was probably in Fernie, the most expensive hotel. I have to do the
Huh.
Canadian conversion, but they were probably pretty close.
So did you have a plan? Like, did you kind of have a plan? Like, I'm gonna ride so far and stop. Like, how far you were going to go the first day? Did you have like a sort of a loose plan of how that was going to go point to point?
Yeah, so I knew, so my goal was to finish in 21 days,
Right.
which puts you in like 125 or 130 miles a day. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind every day. The first couple days, I wanted to get to Eureka, which is just after the border, on night 2. So that's like 260 miles.
Wow.
Is that right? No, it's 260 miles to the border, and then Eureka is like another 15 or 20 miles from there. So I knew the first 2 days were going to be big. And so my goal the first day was to get to Fernie, which is like 150 or 155 miles, and then get to Eureka the second day. And then after that, I kind of just kept that 130-mile a day idea in the back of my head. But didn't really try not to think about it too much. A lot of people will get caught up in that, and it can really mess with your head. At least I was afraid of it messing with my head and getting down on myself if I wasn't meeting that goal. So
Well, so you started in Banff like with everybody, right?
yep.
Everybody starts together.
So because they have so many people doing it, and there were, I think, 185 roughly people that started on the Grand Depart,
Right.
the Banff National Park asked them to stagger the start, so they didn't have 200 people hitting the same trail all at the same time. So the you get like this vague email saying, we're going to send out the start times once we have everyone signed up on Track Leaders, which was the the GPS tracking page. So you don't really find out your actual start time until the night before the start, and it didn't come in
Wow.
until like 9 or 10 o'clock.
So what
But
time? What was your start time? Was it based on
well,
your projected finish?
yeah, that's how they did it. So the front runners all started at basically 7 o'clock, and then they let another 20 people off every 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I started
Were
at
you
7:30.
were you elbowing anybody out of the way, yelling "sport leader" coming through, trying to
Just
like what?
sprint.
Yeah, it was I won the whole shot, and
You got the whole shot.
it's pretty low key. I mean, everyone's pretty excited, so I think the pace is probably higher than what I rode a lot of the time. But the start out from Banff, and the trail's not difficult. It's not steep. You're kind of riding down the valley, and everyone was excited, and just kind of all riding together, and you're chatting with people and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool
Did you
experience.
did you get to ride with most of the same people like you're on pace with? Like you kind of saw the same crew around? Like what was your, same sharing hotels? Like what's it like out on trail life when you're out there?
So the first couple days, because everyone starts at the same time, you see tons of different people, and you're constantly catching people, or people are passing you. So it the first probably 2 or 3 days, it's very social, and you chat with someone for a little while, and then you slow down, or you stop to buy food, and they keep riding, and then after the first few days, you start to ride with kind of the same group, and you might not ride with them all the time, but you'll see them at the next town, or you'll pass the same guy, and then they'll pass you when you're filtering water or whatever. And what's interesting is, so by the time I got to New Mexico, there was probably a group of I think it was like 8 or 10 of us that had kind of been riding together on and off for the last 2 weeks. And what's kind of crazy is we all finished within like 4 hours of each other. So
Wow.
a lot of times you get to the finish of the Tour Divide and there's no one there.
Just a chain link fence.
Just a chain link fence, especially the middle of the night. I mean, because the border closes at 4 o'clock. And so you get down there and I mean, there's no one there except, either your ride or however you're getting out of there. But I rode the last couple days with 2 other guys, and so came into the finish with them. But there were also, 4 or 5 other people that we'd been, riding off and on with and meeting up with at resupply points, and that was really cool to have that many people there to cheer for you and stuff like that.
2 people with you going into the finish. Please tell me you out sprinted them. Please.
No, we rode across the finish line holding hands.
That's perfect.
That's spirit of the divide type of
yeah,
thing.
Spirit of the divide.
So like, how did it go? Like what were the highs and lows, I guess, over 3 weeks of this 120 miles a day on a bike that weighs 50 pounds or more?
It's highs and I don't, it's hard to say. I mean, like
the highs were getting text messages from us. Hi, Keith.
Yeah, I put my phone on airplane mode because I couldn't. There's too much.
But the phone call from me that he accidentally picked up. That was great.
Yeah. He answered, "Oh no, wrong number,
wrong button." Now I got to talk to him.
New phone is this.
I mean, the highs it varied. I mean, some days the highs were just you get to the top of a pass and you're just like, okay, this is pretty amazing. I'm up here on the top of this pass, at 10,000 feet or almost 12,000 feet, I think is the high point, and there's no one else around. And you're just like, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. This is really cool. But, also, getting to know some of the people, whether it was people on route that were also riding, or there's a few people that, are kind of known for their hospitality. And actually meeting them and feeling that, like, that hospitality was really cool. So there's a little town in Montana called Ovando, and it's mostly their big, like, industry or whatever is fly fishing. And there's like a little store, there's a little restaurant, and then there's a fly fishing shop. And the lady that owns it fell in love with the divide. And, she stocks, a few like bicycle parts and stuff like that for people that are racing the divide, but also people who are touring it and stuff like that. But she was the nicest, sweetest person. You kind of roll into town and she's got her shop open, and I bought some gels or something there, and I asked her if if I could fill up my water bottles. She's like, "Oh, sure, I'll take them." And she takes my water bottles, and then she starts to walk to the back of the shop, and she turns around and she goes, I'm gonna wash these for you, because it'd probably been, that was about a week in, so my bottles were just nasty. But it felt like, someone who just kind of cared about what you were doing and how you were doing it. But
probably felt good to see some friendly faces after your so much time of solitude.
Yeah.
Is there, how many times were you close to quitting?
I never had a point where I was going to quit.
Yeah.
The last probably 2 or 3 days in New Mexico were probably the hardest. Just in that I wanted it to be done. It was hot, it was dry. I knew I was close. Because I was 200, 300, 400 miles, and it's like, okay, I still got 2 days. I'm just want to be done.
how defeating was it when on your 12th day, or was it the 14th day, the leaders crossed the line?
Not at all.
And it wasn't, you weren't going, man, I'm just over halfway.
No, because I mean, I knew there were going to be people that were running that pace,
Yeah.
but that, I mean, I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to
Well,
set a record.
you were
So it
beating Alex
wasn't
House
like
for a while, you know.
yeah.
Did you
Luckily,
see
because he
him?
had a bunch of mechanicals.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, how was your
How's the
like
mechanics?
yeah, any issues, mechanical issues?
Very few. No, I mean, I replaced my chain once, and I replaced my rear brake pads just outside of Breckenridge.
Like you did
Um,
yourself?
I
Like you
actually
had it with
stopped at a
you?
shop to do the rear brake pads.
Yeah.
They were I'd gone through. They were treating the roads with I can't remember, some chemical treatment uh, before just before the pass before that you go over right before Breckenridge area, and my brakes were making all kinds of noise after I'd run through this road treatment. So I thought that, you know, I wanted to get to a shop so that I could try to get them to clean stuff up a little bit. Then they were awesome. I mean, I think he charged me $10 to swap out my brake pads, plus, you know, because I had the parts with me. And I mean, he set up a wash station. I was able to wash my bike, and
Wow.
so yeah, pretty awesome to have a, you know, bike shop that.
Well, went through Steamboat, right? Did you go by Moots and get some love from them?
I
Stay in the condo.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I went through Steamboat at I was probably I think I got into Steamboat about 11 o'clock, and I rolled into downtown where all the bike shops are, and realized that Moots is back up the hill behind me. So I didn't stop by Moots.
Not turning around.
Now, I know we've only got a few more minutes left. I have one question I want to get to before Graham close it up. Would you how would you recommend this to someone? Would you, and like what would be the defining piece of advice you'd give them that wants to go? Give them, sorry.
So I absolutely recommend it to people. The main thing is, just be prepared. Like don't
don't be like me.
I mean, it's not a decision you can make and go, I'm going to do that next month. I mean, unless, I mean, sure, someone like Lael Wilcox can do that because that's what she does. But for the average person who likes to ride bikes, it's something they got to think about, and because it definitely takes some planning and training and kind of getting stuff dialed in. But I'd absolutely recommend it. Graham, you should absolutely do it.
I'm going down a
I
dangerous
don't know.
path, Steve.
Yeah,
You've never expressed interest in doing it, so
I haven't slept in a tent yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, you know,
I own a tent but haven't used it yet.
I heard you say something about replacing a chain, so I'm out.
I know, right? Okay.
I mean, I guess I want to know like what Keith's main takeaways are at the end, but
Yeah,
like best day, that kind of stuff.
yeah. I mean, that's important. Like after that experience, it's almost spiritual, right? The 3 weeks in the wilderness.
Seeing moose. Your Instagram feed, by the way, everyone should check out. It's probably one of the coolest to see, like starting up in Canada and then as you came down. It was awesome to follow. Keith.
Thanks. I tried. Some days I was better at taking pictures than others. Some days it was just hard. And
I mean, okay, I lied. I was gonna ask just one more question, but what was the craziest thing you saw on the trail? Like what was like the best thing? To me, it was the picture of the moose walking up the trail with you. Like that's when I was like, wow, he really is out there in the middle of the US.
That was probably one of the most memorable. Like that was going up Marshall Pass. So that's southern Colorado. It's a big pass out of Del Norte. And that's not the right city. I can't remember. Anyway, But yeah, big pass. And coming out of Salida, that's where it was, Salida, Colorado. So that's anyway. And I probably spent like half an hour riding behind those two moose.
Wow.
And they were just kind of taking their time, doing moose things, I guess, just
I don't
walking
care.
up the road. But
Hey, I'm a moose. I don't care.
yeah, I mean, and they can be super dangerous because they can be really territorial, and they weigh 1,500 pounds plus. So I just kind of kept my distance, and eventually they disappeared, and I rode on up to the top. So that was pretty cool to be that close, and for that length of time. That was pretty awesome.
Wow. What was your feeling at the end? Like when you hit the fence, like, was there, I mean, I've done some long things. I've gotten to the point where I've like cried after the end of something long and hard. It just emotion came out of me. I don't know if you experienced something sort of like that.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's kind of a sense of relief because, like I said earlier, it was nice. With 200 or 300, 400 miles to go, I was ready to be done. So there was kind of a feeling of like, oh, thank God I'm done. But you start looking back, like the last 60, I want to say it's about 60 miles is all on pavement, and so you don't really have to think to ride at that point. So that's kind of where I was kind of thinking and reflecting a little bit on the whole ride, and really looking back and just thinking about what I'd accomplished, and how I felt about it. And I don't know, I think I'm still figuring that out. It's when I was in it, it was just ride, eat, sleep. That's kind of all you're thinking about. And then, to finish, it's kind of like, oh, I gotta go back to real life now.
Yeah, how'd you
So
get home? Like, how did you, like, you're there at the fence and then like there's nothing there. So what do you do
so
now?
there's a guy who lives in Hachita, New Mexico, which is the closest town to the border, about 50 miles away. And he kind of runs a business and he basically shuttles people to and from the border, who are either racing or who are touring. He also, the Continental Divide Trail starts at the same spot. So he helps through hikers. But basically, as you're coming into New Mexico, you coming through the last few towns, I just was just able to contact him and say, hey, here's where I am. We're coming into, this is when I expect to finish. And, he picks you up, takes you back to his property, and he's got a couple like bunk houses. So you kind of crash there. There's usually at least when I was there was other racers. So you're kind of hanging out with them. I finished at midnight, so we didn't get back to his place till probably about 2:00 in the morning. Crashed, slept for 6 hours, and then got up and he made breakfast for everybody. And then some people spend 2 or 3 days there just kind of hanging out, talking to people. I was ready to get home, so just started working on the logistics. He has bike boxes, so packed my bike up and he drove us to the Greyhound station. It was like 50 miles away. So then rode a Greyhound for 4 hours.
It's just as hard getting
Phoenix.
home.
Yeah, it was like Greyhound bus to Phoenix for 4 hours. Spent the night in Phoenix and then flew home that next morning.
It's not like finishing the Tour de France, that's for sure. There's nobody there, and then you got to ride a Greyhound. You've done one of the greatest accomplishments athletically that you can do, and you're riding a Greyhound the next day.
Yep.
And then you shipped your bike home and got on a plane.
I just took the bike on the plane with me.
And then back to work on Monday.
So I finished the 4th of July weekend, so I didn't go back to work until Wednesday, but it was like 3 or 4 days later. So
Anybody, do you walk back in like you didn't do it, like nothing's up? Like, hey guys,
I mean,
grab a
kind
cup
of.
of coffee. like, no,
I mean, I'd roll into the job site, and it's like, I mean, everyone I work with, a lot of the subcontractors that work for me, they all knew I was doing this. I mean, I've been gone for a month, and
yeah,
so lots of talking about it, which is cool.
That's good.
Sharing stories with people and people asking questions. And
well, the experience unified your friends for sure. We were, blowing up text messages. Where's Keith at today? Hi,
it
Keith.
was super cool to have that support from all you guys.
I went into the local bike shop. They had a tab on their Chrome open that was just Keith's tracker.
That's awesome.
And yeah, people were going, man, I think I'm going to do this. And then you look at your speed, it was like 7 miles an hour. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, there was turns out there's a lot of climbing going over all those mountains.
A lot. Crazy big climbs. I mean, I followed some of the guys that were racing it. It was interesting to see like the weather issues they ran into and the problems they had. It seems like you were behind all the problems, which was nice.
Yeah, I got super lucky. Like, dodged a couple thunderstorms, but for the most part, the worst weather stuff I had to deal with was wind.
I mean, you saw the 3 leaders got stuck in a porta potty for for a day, in a porta potty.
Yep.
They would have beat the record.
I saw the porta potty.
The record.
I rode by it.
Oh man.
What's crazy is, when I was riding through that section, you could see where they had been pushing and walking their bikes through the mud. Like, you could see the tire tracks, and then you could see the footprints next to it. And by the time, I think that was like 3, 4, 5 days later, it was completely rock solid.
Yeah.
So
what's next, Keith? Now that we've celebrated you, the party's over. We're waiting for the next thing. What do you have any idea, like what you want to do next? I've heard from some of one of the guy who won it, Uba, I guess his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, I'm not doing it again. I want to go do other things. I want to see the world. I'm not doing this. This isn't my life to beat the record. My life is to go do cool things and see different places. So like, what are you going to do next?
I don't know for sure. I like the idea of going and doing things in different parts of the world. That seems like that would be a really cool thing to do. I mean, there's certainly some other big races out there that would be fun to take part in. A couple in the US that are big ones would be Colorado Trail and Arizona Trail. And then I'm kind of fascinated by the Atlas Mountain Race, which is in Morocco.
No idea.
And and then there's some stuff in Europe that looks pretty cool too. The French Divide or Italy Divide.
Oh, yes.
The Hope 1000 in Switzerland would be pretty spectacular.
Can you have support staff in any of these?
No.
Tim wants to
no
go.
support
Tim's
staff.
freeloading.
Yeah. The Morocco one sounds awesome. If I can, be your merch guy.
Yeah.
Help you out. I won't help you with your bike, but I can sell some shirts.
Yeah, the Morocco one, it's just not a place I'd ever think of going.
Yeah.
So to have an excuse to go would be pretty cool.
Well, you're inspiring us all in different ways. Some more than others, and I've now put a down payment on the next bike that's going to do these things. And I blame you, I guess.
100%.
I'm glad I could continue to be a bad influence.
But it's been fun, doing cross Florida with you and being part of your drive. I mean, I've learned and experienced things. Just I didn't even know these things existed. Just being friends with you, it's impacted my life in a positive way. And you've had a lot of positive impacts on my life. And Tim too. You guys are great friends, and so this experience.
Let's be honest. It's Keith
Keith.
Definitely, yeah.
Some Tim, more
especially
Keith.
After this, yeah.
We're stroke brothers though, Tim. So we got something special too.
No, but Graham, I'm with you, man. Just Keith's such a wonderful person. I'll let you conclude your thought, but I'm just gonna ditto on it, and to see what he was able to accomplish is definitely inspiring. For
That's
me, not to do
cool.
it, but to see someone put in 21 days or and to get it done was pretty awesome to watch.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Next adventure is to come back to Florida and do something stupid with Tim and I. That's
Yeah.
what's next. Yeah, for sure. We got to see you again soon, hopefully.
We'll just
Yeah.
75-mile team time trial be cakewalk for you from Gainesville to the Atlantic Ocean. That's what I'll throw down as the marker. Let's
Except
get
it
it
won't
done.
break 12 miles an hour.
All right. Well,
that's-
I know Tim's probably got a podcast to do, right? Is that what's next? Is that what's are you podcasting tonight?
Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Tell those
Lots to
guys
talk
I'm
about.
sorry I held you up, and thank you for letting us have some of your time.
Dude, don't thank me. Thank Keith for doing something that was really awesome.
No, that's great. I'm glad this worked out, and I'm glad you could join us too, Tim. That was really important to me because you're the little rock guy that brought Keith his trophy to Hurricane.
Yeah, he didn't get a trophy for this one, Keith.
I didn't get a trophy. I was a little disappointed you weren't there at the finish, Tim. I mean, honestly, with a
waited for the
rock.
surprise. Where's Tim?
I'm just happy that you weren't driving back from the border yourself after riding 21 straight days on little sleep. So
Yeah, that's
Very
probably good.
It's a Greyhound. It's a Greyhound.
anyway,
Well,
well,
all right. Thanks, guys.
it's so good to
Yeah,
see you
thanks.
both, and congrats, Keith.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. See you,
Cheers.
dudes.